Well, good afternoon. Can you hear this mic fine? Okay. Let me know if we drift too far away from it. I'm Greg Rupert. I'm Chair of the Board of Trustees of Seattle Unity. I'd like to welcome all of you, and we really appreciate your attendance today. It means a lot to the board to see all of these people with this level of interest come to the annual meeting. A couple of details. This year we have 2 live stream audiences that are participating with us. The first live stream are members of the congregation who are connecting via Zoom. Members get to vote, and so that is the advantage of the Zoom connection. Other attenders are using our links or our sites on the internet, and they're not voting members, so they're able to participate but not to ask questions.
Pause for a minute, Greg. Zoom is not able to hear.
We're pausing for a moment because the information is that Zoom doesn't have audio. This is the first time we've tried to connect voting members, and if you remember when we first sent man into space, we had a bunch of launches that got aborted at the last minute. So the engineers are working on it.
Yeah. So they can hear you.
I do have a funny story. So today is my last day as board chair and also the last day of my 3-year term. And earlier, before service started today, I was confused one more time with George Edwards. You know, two aging males, a little thin on top. You know, we don't all look alike. That's my joke. How are we doing on Zoom audio?
Not yet. Well, they'll tell us here in a second that they heard you. But I asked them to tell us when they could hear, and they haven't heard anything yet.
Well, we're all here ready to go, and we all have a number of things to do today, so I'm going to call the meeting to order. It is currently 11:47. Now I'd like to welcome Reverend Diane for the opening prayer.
All right, so all of us in the room, and we hold all those online, and we hold sound working perfectly. And so I just invite us again to center in this space, because we are creating this space together, whether you're here in person or joining online. And so we do open to divine guidance and divine wisdom that leads us in all that we do as a spiritual community and as stewards of this community and the mission and vision. And we are grateful for all that show up and give of their time and their gifts and their talents and treasures. And so we open this meeting, creating this sacred container to do the work of spiritual community. And so it is. Amen. So I'm going to put a couple people on the spot, and so Jerry's one of them. So he's got to make his way up here. So I'm giving him a head start. And then Greg. And so we have actually 3 board members who have completed their service. So as Greg mentioned, he's serving out his 3-year term. Paul Gammon and Jerry are all completing their service. And so I want to just give a special acknowledgement to the 3 of them. Paul couldn't make it today. But each person that steps onto the board, and those that have served on the board can probably kind of attest to this, you don't really know what you're getting into. And so I am just so grateful that everyone that says yes and steps into this sacred service does so with such a presence and a full heart, and bringing all that they are in service to this community and the monthly meetings and meeting minutes and all of that fun stuff. And so this is just a small token of appreciation to you, Greg, and to you, Jerry, and I have something for Paul. And so let us just shower our love and blessings on these 2. So we love you, we bless you, we appreciate you, and we behold the Christ that you are. And so, thank you. So as long as you're up here, I'm going to ask you to just stay in one more moment, because I'm going to have all of our board come up, and there should be a slide that shows all our board members and their positions if we move forward. That one. And so if you're currently serving on the board, I'm just going to ask you to stand so that we can thank you and acknowledge you. Thank you. Yeah. All right. Thank you. Now they're not on the spot anymore. All right, so I just want to move back a slide. And so we always take a moment to acknowledge those that have passed in the year that before. And so we had 4 of our beloved members that made their transition in 2025: Don Foisey, Samaj, Joan Gregory, and Jan Campbell. And so let us just, again, center in our hearts and just take a moment of silence and just send our love and blessings to their soul and spirit and the bright light they shone while they walked this earth. Amen. All right, so if we can move forward a couple slides. So after the board, so I just want to also acknowledge our staff. So recognition of our staff. So Vienne, that you didn't know, renamed from Karen R. So she's been here 6 years. She joined us during the pandemic when we were in temp space. Such a fun time to join the team. Erin, who's been here an amazing 22 years. Yeah. Masanda, so ask Masanda to stand. She leads our rentals. And I'll say it's 3 years this time. She was here previously too. Yeah. Michael Olerick, who's our facility caretaker, he's probably running around the building and upstairs. Charlie Manger, who's our YFM director. I don't know, he might be downstairs right now. Oh, in Mexico. Nick Charlton, who's our sound tech in the corner, 21 years. And Sandy Dietrichson, who's been here helping down in the nursery 18 years. So Sandy's back there. All right. Yes, and me. I've been on staff 12 years. I've been here 28 years. All right. Okay, so I'm going to hand it back over to Greg.
Handheld or mounted, which works best?
The folks online said they were having trouble hearing, so anything you can improve that.
Do we have a quorum number yet?
Quorum number is 71.
We have a quorum. first item on the agenda, now that we've established a quorum for the meeting, is approval of the 2025 annual meeting minutes. They were provided in your packet. I'm sure that 95% of you have reviewed them for accuracy. Are there any corrections? Seeing no corrections or recommendations for corrections, I ask for a motion to approve the 2025 annual meeting minutes.
I move that we approve those minutes.
I second.
Carl moves. Carl Westwin. And Scott Caldwell? Yeah. All in favor, raise your green card. Any opposed? Oh, we want to count them? What's that? Looks like a majority. Let's see if there are any red ones first. And lastly, were there any abstentions? Good. That means we had no grammatical errors in the minutes. Thank you. Board's approved.
We have folks from online too. Just gonna give them a couple more seconds.
Okay.
But it looks like.
So out of curiosity, can you tell us, Greg, you called it quorum of 71. How many are online here of it being?
13 now.
13.
Okay, I'm gonna call it as a yes. 11 of the 12 said yes, and 1 said abstain.
The next item on the agenda is our election of our new trustees. I am going to read from Seattle Unity's existing bylaws 2 sections which deal with electing trustees. A, qualifications. Any person elected to the Board of Trustees must be an active member of Seattle Unity. They shall be a person who is an active member for at least 1 year. They desire to serve on the Board of Trustees. They endeavor to live in accordance with the Jesus Christ principles of love and truth as taught by Unity. Furthers the work of the ministry and congregation through active interest, love, and financial and other support. Is a sincere and continuing student of Unity and is conversant with its teachings, and has leadership capabilities as demonstrated by committee work or volunteer service within Unity or organizations. The nominating procedure is this. The nominating committee shall consider candidates who have previously served as alternates on the board as nominees for full-term board positions, if available, unless the prior alternate declines. I would now like to introduce Kathleen Balkin, who chaired the nominating committee this year, to introduce our candidates. Excuse me.
Okay. We'd like to present the trustees' candidates for the nominating committee. The nominating committee presents Kathy Gural and Monique Lowe for 3-year terms. The nominating committee presents Diane Gural and Tim Carlson for 2-year alternate positions. We will now hear from each of the board candidates, starting with Kathy. Thank you.
Hi. Excuse me. A little bit rough in the throat. So, I came into this place 40 years ago, actually 42 years ago. And it was just as welcoming then as it is now. But I really think that over the years, it's taken me a very long time to grasp so many wonderful Unity principles after being raised in a more fundamentalist Christian thing. It was a long haul getting me to this place. And a lot of it has been in the last, well, I came 40 years ago, but my engagement with it, I would say, would be more like 15. It was about the time we were doing those tapestries, I think, was when I really kind of got glued into the place. So, but this past year, I'm so grateful that I had this opportunity to be an alternate. And as Diane said this morning, do the hard thing. The hard thing was not being an alternate. The hard thing is standing right here and talking. That's me, I'm an introvert. But it's been just great for this past year, and I am just so much looking forward to further growth. I could see how much we grew in just those numbers that we just had, but there is so much to sustain to be in this building with these people and the music and the speakers we have and the classes we have. And so I am glad to support it, and I hope to have more people pile on to that stewardship campaign, because it really is like, for me, I remember I started tithing when I was 18, and I dropped it off after I left that church. But when I was tithing, I had more abundance, just when I was hardly making any money at all. But I said, okay, I'm going to put that first, and everything else fell into place. So that's what I have to say about stewardship, and I'm so happy that I'm still on this team for another year.
Okay, we'd like to now present Monique.
Thank you. Last Sunday, I actually talked about doing part of the stewardship, but I also mentioned my background, just a tinge, saying that I had started Unity since I was, actually since 10. So Unity has built a strong foundation for me, and when I joined the board, it opened my eyes and gave clarity to all the other parts and components that allow us to sit here and be spiritual as a group, an inclusive community. And I appreciate the work that goes on there, and I have to say, being a part of a lot of different groups from my professional life, this is a nice group. There is no one person where you go, oh, and I can appreciate that. The other part of that piece too is, given my background, I can work with a lot of people, and I like to think that I can bring to the board, if we have this inclusiveness, there's a lot of differences of what that means to people. And I have had a neurodiverse background because of all the people that I have to work with professionally. And so I like to give clarity to some people who don't know how to clarify it. And I find that easy for me. I've been doing it, gosh, I think like it's over 30 years. That sounds weird to say. For a long time. So I would like to continue to do that for the 3-year term. I serve as an alternate, and I look forward to being on there longer. Thank you.
And now we'd like to present Diane.
Thanks, Kathleen. Good afternoon. Years ago, I went to India and proceeded to get very sick. And I took all the Western medicine I had in my suitcase, and nothing helped. And a local waiter found out about my situation, and he got on his scooter, and he got some medicine. He brought it to me, and I was cured almost instantly. I was so grateful. And I tried to give him a really big tip, but he refused, and he said, "This is my seva." And seva is a Sanskrit word for selfless service. And that was a very touching moment for me, and I thought, that's what I want to do. I want to be conscious of seva. And being on the board here seems like a way to practice Seva. And I first came to Seattle Unity Easter 2005, and I loved it immediately, especially its recognition of the world's religions, like our talk today really represents that. And I loved it even more a few years later when I met a congregant, Bill Evans, who is now my husband, okay? And professionally, most of my career was in sales, marketing, and training. And then in 2006, I left Microsoft and I opened an executive coaching business that I had for 12 years. And currently, I serve on the board of a homeowners association. And I have lots of learning from that, and I hope to bring that to this board. And finally, it seems like the name Diane is really popular around here. And so my name is Diane Gasol. It rhymes with y'all, something I picked up when I lived in Texas. And so I hope y'all vote for Diane Gasol.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Diane. And now we'd like to present Tim.
Big breath. I was born and raised a Lutheran, and about 25 years ago, I got real restless with the teachings in that it was so limiting. And I mentioned this to a friend, and the friend introduced me to CSL over on Sandpoint Way. And I really loved the teachings, really loved the teachings. It just expanded me so much. So I became a member there, and when Eric and Colette left and formed Amazing Grace, I followed them there. I was just so inspired by their talks, and the contrast between Colette and Eric was just so feeding for me. Well, then when they retired, it was time for another move. I ended up going to SOTO, to Seattle Unity. And at the same time, I was taking city walks past this wonderful new sanctuary. And so I moved in about the time that you all did. Professionally, I've been a teacher, elementary, high school. I've been a teacher of psychology at Tacoma Community College. I had a second career after 30 years in public education as a therapist at Bellevue Community Services. After 11 years, my wife almost passed away of a hemorrhagic bleed, that's a stroke, and she was disabled for 10 years. So what I have to say about landing here at Unity is that it is so welcoming. And I think what I can contribute is life experience, my life experience personally, professionally, and of course, spiritually. Thank you.
And lastly, Eric Vandale is running to serve for the last year of a 3-year term. He is traveling, so he has recorded the following video, please. Thank you.
Hello, Unity friends. I'm Eric Vandale, and since I'm not able to be with you in person this Sunday, I thought I would just take a few minutes virtually to share some things about my background and how my experiences would help me as a member of your board. While I am a relatively new face around Seattle Unity, I am not new to Unity itself. In fact, this is my 40th year of learning about, studying, and practicing Unity principles. And during those 4 decades, I can say these principles have profoundly shaped my life. First and foremost, Unity is where I met Sandy, my wife and best friend over these last 40 years. It was my mother who first suggested Unity to me. She, I'm proud to say, served on the Silent Unity prayer line in Kansas City for over a decade. In fact, if you happen to have called into the prayer line in the late 90s or early 2000s, there's a chance that you may have even prayed with her. But her suggestion that I find and attend a Unity church was the beginning of a spiritual path that has led me to now be involved with 5 different Unity communities around the country. And while I was serving in each one of those communities, I had a variety of different roles. I was able to learn about and apply many of Unity's fundamental principles. In roles such as the Sunday worship team, where I was an AV tech or a platform assistant, and I'm also a musician, played drums, I experienced the joy of worship. But then later, as I expanded my involvement into leadership roles, such as a YOU interim director, I was head of the ministerial search committee, I was a leader of a major fundraiser, and even co-chair of a board for a while, I had then to call upon and learn how to use my innate powers of imagination, wisdom, understanding, among many others. However, if there's one area that I feel Unity has impacted me the greatest, it's in learning about and applying the principles of prosperity. Great teachers such as Jack Bowen, Edwin Gaines, and yes, I was one of the 5 folks who raised their hand when Reverend Diane asked who has actually read Charles Filmer's book, Prosperity. But studying these principles has allowed me to prosper in incredible ways and even become a minister of prosperity in my latest community, where in addition to giving Sunday talks on the topic of prosperity, I led classes to help others learn and appreciate the principles. But it's also in many other areas of my life where these other fundamental principles have helped me. Whether it was the challenges of my corporate marketing career with Fortune 100 companies, or getting my MBA, or living on overseas assignments, or in the co-raising of my wonderful children, Unity has been there for me. And now it's time that I once again expand my commitment to you and this community to serve as a future member of your board. So thank you for your support as I look ahead to the many new ways this opportunity will bring of learning and applying what Chuck and Mert taught us all many years ago in the movement. So I look forward to meeting and working with many more of you over the next year. Thank you.
There was a woman that I used to speak with in the old building, and I'd ask her how she was doing, and she'd go, I am blessed, blessed, blessed. And that's how I feel about this year's board nominees. Thank you all for stepping forward. Is there a motion for unanimous consent of the full slate of candidates as presented by the nominating committee? Kathleen Balkin moves. We have a second back here. Jerry Schley seconds. Please use the green card for a yes vote. And Rick will ask you to count these. And Andrea. The script says count, but it looks like a majority. And it's majority online. Okay. Y'all were impressive presenters. Okay. All right. We'll call it unanimous. Now we will have a second vote. We've agreed to unanimous consent. Second vote to approve the slate of candidates. Who is it? Kathleen Balkin. Unanimous consent to elect the entire slate. Yes. Yes, yes, yeah. Scott, I asked you not to ask hard questions. Kathleen Balkin has moved to approve the slate of candidates. Is there a second? First, last name Dirk? Dirk Larimer. And my memory is just temporary. I know it's Dirk Larimer. Okay, this will be a second vote. To approve the slate of candidates, please raise your green cards. Of 12 online. For the record, you may lower your hands now. It's unanimous. Rick, that's the pragmatic side of my personality. And for the record, are there any abstentions? There being none, welcome to the new board members. The script says the slate of candidates is approved. I'm going to turn the mic back to Reverend Diane for her comments.
You taking the script? Yeah. Thanks. Shh. All right, so if you don't mind progressing the slides, so we're going to take a look back and celebrate 2025. So we actually, end of August, it was a 3-year anniversary of being in this new building. And so I know sometimes it feels like we just moved in, and then other times it feels a little longer sometimes. But so if you don't mind going forward a slide, Ben. All right, so want to celebrate all of you. So the people that make it possible, which is through sacred service. So we do not have a spiritual community without people stepping forward. And so as I call out the different ministry teams, and if you're online, I invite you to type into the chat. I'm going to invite you to stand. And so if you serve on the digital ministry team, if you serve on the engagement team, so if you serve on one of these, I'm going to, and stay standing. So if you serve on the facility team, if you serve on the finance team, if you serve in the garden party, if you serve on the hospitality team, if you serve as a prayer chaplain, if you serve on the prayer team, if you serve on the rental team, if you serve on the safety team, all of our ushers and greeters, worship arts, youth and family ministries. All right, so thank you all for your amazing service. Again, it is only possible with all of you. If you can go to the next slide, Ben. All right, so I just want to highlight rentals, and Diana, when she gives the financial report, will speak to it more, as will Greg. But we continue to grow our rentals, and I just really want to acknowledge Masanda, who has done an amazing job with this. So we continue to grow our nonprofit partnerships. That includes with Washington Health Alliance, the Urban League, King County Housing and Development, Rebuilding Seattle, and many more. We're steadily growing our corporate events. We're having growth in weddings. Masanda's been doing a fabulous job of networking with the SLU Chamber, ILEA, Northwest Event Show, and we continue to grow our digital outreach. So each year we sort of added another component to our digital outreach, including this year. And so really that has all led to fantastic success in getting to invite people into our building that maybe don't know us from other settings. And so usually when people come in, I never get tired of it. I miss actually not doing walkthroughs, because when people walk in, they're like, wow. It's one of the greatest feelings. And so we have a pretty amazing spiritual home that we get to extend out and invite others into. Next slide, Ben. All right, so we had a number of different, in addition to our Sunday services and worship together, we had a number of different classes and workshops. We had Abundant Living and Charting Your Course, Volunteer Appreciation Dinner, which was a lot of fun, which we will have again. I had a lot of fun with the Science and Spirituality class. We had the aquarium field trip, membership classes, as always, our amazing church picnic. Thanks to the men's group for hosting. Our Mariners field trip, and we had several people attend our Unity Northwest regional retreat up at Bellingham, and of course our open mics. All really rich programming. If you haven't had a chance to step into some of the other programming outside of Sunday, it's a great way to connect with people in the community and make those connections deeper. Next slide. Oh, that is the next slide. They look very similar. Yeah, so Heart of Prayer class, Finding Yourself in Transition. We had our Oktoberfest celebration, prayer chaplain training. And of course, once we get into December, our remembrance service, candlelighting and burning bowl. And of course, Reverend Karen's retirement. And we celebrated her very well on New Year's Eve. Anyone else here and dancing on the rooftop? Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And of course, our Whitestone service and the installation ceremony for me, which was so moving, and I'm incredibly grateful to be stepping into this role. Yes, and the men's brunch, their holiday brunch as well. Yeah. Next slide. All right, so there is a video of highlights that Aaron has graciously put together. And so a lot of fun. I'm actually having brunch with Reverend Karen tomorrow, and so I'll ask her, do you even remember we had an annual meeting tomorrow? So looking ahead to this next year, so I had gone away in November for to Unity Village, and so I spent a little extra time just thinking about the annual theme and sub-themes. And so, of course, if you've been here, you know that our annual theme this year is Foundations. And really what I was thinking about is we are in this wonderful, unique moment in time where there's much that is stable. And I think leaning into that stable foundation, but then also invited to stretch and ask the question, how can we continue to recreate ourselves individually and collectively as a spiritual community? But in order to do that, we have to maintain a stable foundation. And so that was really the thinking behind it as we move through this transition from Reverend Karen's leadership and stepping into this new role. And then for each month, we have different sub-themes. And so January, of course, was setting our vision and intentions. In February, we've been exploring abundance and prosperity. We're going to get into the creative process in March and have a lot of fun with that. Erin's going to be doing a workshop, and we have another workshop presenter in March. Earth Wisdom in April. In May, we'll be kind of deepening our look at prayer and meditation. And then in June, looking at metaphysics, which may sound dry, but it's not, really. So then going on to the next one. So in July, the gifts of community. Our sub-theme in August will be sacred action. In September, sacred service. In October, wisdom keepers and wisdom traditions. And then looking at generosity and gratitude in November, and then into the silence for December. So I'm very excited about our sub-themes, and we'll have different programming around those. And I think it's the next slide that gets into a little kind of sneak peek at that. And Vienne has graciously created cards, if you saw in the elevator and down on the ground floor, something that shows sort of a look ahead, a glance ahead, and it has a lot of these listed on there, even if our website doesn't have everything quite yet. So next, and a number of these are going to be presented by guest speakers, and so I just really want to encourage people to support our guest presenters, and especially if they're doing a workshop. So Reverend Eric Odell will be presenting next Sunday a workshop. We have a guest speaker on March 8th, Reverend Charlene Manuel, and so she'll be presenting a workshop, Grace in Your Life. There's a number of different membership class opportunities, so if you know somebody that's been thinking about membership, they're going to be both in person and online. And we're doing the Heart of Prayer class a little bit earlier because you'll see on the next slide that we're going to have our prayer chaplain training actually at Unity Village this year. So if you've been thinking of serving as a prayer chaplain, this might be a fun year to consider it. So the Heart of Prayer class is a prerequisite for that. Cindy. You can come and talk to me about that. So we have a certain amount of space, so we'll have to kind of talk through that. And then Erin's going to be leading a really fun solstice event, June 21st. Another of our guest presenters is going to be leading a workshop on the language of spirituality at the end of June. And of course, some summer fun with our church picnic and summer hike. And also still hoping to have a Mariners field trip. So I know there's some Mariners fans out there. Yep. And then our volunteer appreciation dinner we're going to have in the fall this year, September 16th. All right. And then some other workshops. Our Unity Northwest Region conference is going to be at Unity of Portland, so it's close, and it's always a fun time to get to know others within the larger Unity movement. So if you have the space, I invite you to check that out, and then into our kind of holiday services. All right, next slide. And then again, just like the classes are a great opportunity and workshops to connect more deeply with others in the community, so are the spirit groups. So I encourage you, if you haven't already participated in some of those, to check some of those out. And those dates are on the website as well. Next, I think that's. And then continuing very much the same to focus on growing our rentals in the coming year. All right, next slide. I think that's, yeah. So I'm going to turn it over to Greg.
If you're asked to serve on the board, I would do it. I think when we get a request like that, we tend to respond from a place of fear. It's a lot of work. It's going to clog up my calendar. It may do those things, but the rewards outweigh that experience. Okay. Serving on the board for 3 years, I worked with 3 separate boards that were collegial, respectful, supportive, ethical. One of the great experiences of my life, in all honesty. I'm expecting that this new group of trustees will continue that legacy and that tradition of respectful and ethical work together. I'm going to highlight a few of the things that happened last year that I think were the most important work we did on the board. The first is the success of the co-ministry in 2025. 2 ministers worked cooperatively, diligently together. It was amazing to be in the boardroom with both of those people for 12 months. Wonderful experience. You had Karen's experience and wisdom combined with Diane's amazing capabilities and brain. Just a wonderful year. And now we have fully transitioned into Diane as the minister. I'm going to give you a little background. When Reverend Karen came to us late 3rd quarter maybe in 2024 with her intention to retire, she presented us a written transition plan. And the biggest part of that transition plan was Reverend Diane following her as head minister at Seattle Unity. And just because boards want to think for themselves and try to maintain independence from the ministers, there actually were a few moments where we talked about doing something different. But at the end, Reverend Karen's recommendation was so strong and powerful that we agreed with her and hired Reverend Diane to serve as our new head minister. Now, you stole my thunder because I was going to say, it's working for me. This is something I wanted to emphasize for those of you who haven't had a board experience. The board does a lot to prepare themselves and ready themselves for leadership. The first thing we did in my 3 years was engage in a 2-day board retreat. There are various activities and trainings that are provided. One of the things that comes out of that experience is you learn about your other board members. And last year's retreat, for example, there were so many members that had been involved with Unity for more than 20 years, some 30, 40. You've heard a couple of them today. And it becomes, that's the first experience where you really begin to bond and grow into a group where you share a lot of intimate things about your life. Another thing we did last year, and in light of the news of the day, the board took training from the Darkness into Light program about preventing sexual abuse. Okay, it's a harsh thing to talk about up here, but this was a real brutal training that reinforced in our minds how prevalent this is in our culture and how important it is to stay attentive. And I believe that this training will probably be required on every new board member going forward, and it should be. I know it will be. Staff and several members took the general safety training in November, and that's repeated once or twice every year by our safety team. There were 6, 7 board staff and members who attended the Unity Northwest Regional Conference in September at Unity of Bellingham. I would encourage everyone in the community to consider attending one, just so you get to know who else is in the Northwest region in the Unity movement. And this was in front of our merger in Lee Summit, and a lot of national leaders came out, and I was really impressed with the quality and the capability of the national leadership. We are well led, and they're all a lot smarter than I am, which always is my highest level of praise. The board took steps this year to enhance our financial stability. Second year of our annual stewardship campaign, we exceeded our goal of 90 pledges with 92. We exceeded our goal of 200,000 in pledges with 213,000. Most of you probably know, some don't, that we take the step of annually honoring people who fill out a pledge card, and that plaque is upstairs on the 3rd floor outside, our main meeting room. And then we also launched successfully our legacy campaign. And the legacy campaign, just as a reminder, are those folks who make a provision in their will or some other provision that a portion of their estate will make a bequest to Seattle Unity and specifically to the endowment fund. We honored 21 initial donors with a leaf on the Tree of Life, which is hanging just outside or inside the entry door. And there has been 675,000 in planned bequests to date. Now, that $675,000 may not be a static number, because there were some bequests that basically said, I'm giving a percentage out of an investment account. And if it's 10 years until that person passes, that investment account is probably going to grow. And so I'm thinking that 675 is the present value, and it may be higher. And I mentioned that we installed the Tree of Life sculpture to honor legacy donors. Other work that we did in 2025, we initiated a financial and internal control review by Blantyre Associates. CPA is the CEO of that company. They have other professional administrators, and they were hired to look at the way we handle money, our processes for tracking money and getting it into the bank, how it's spent, those kinds of things. That report came in December, and we have just begun to look at recommendations from the consultant and how to implement some recommendations that they're making. The most important thing that they could see is that all the money that came in was accounted for. The other thing that we initiated last year, we hired a consultant to do a reserve study. That will be completed in second quarter of 2026. A reserve study is an assessment of the value of the building and plant and equipment, okay? And that's important information to guide the board and the congregation as we move forward in the maintenance of this brand new building. In a reserve study, we'll find out how long our air conditioning is going to last, or how long the light fixtures last. And that gives us advance notice about the need to save money and the amounts so that we can anticipate these things before they hit us and we don't have heat in the building for a service, for example. No. Yeah. The reserve study is done broadly, particularly in the Northwest, because you got so many condos and other buildings. And there are known parties who do reserve studies and do it well, and we got one of those that does it well. And then I'm going to call out, well, I'm going to skip the next one because that's been mentioned, but I'm going to do my own call out for the incredible effort by the rental department. Okay? When I joined the board, that was a real point of emphasis for me. I think I mentioned it when I talked to the congregation when I first stood for the board. And I think I said this at our board retreat. I didn't join the board to run ice cream socials. I want to spend my energy helping rent the building because it was such an important rental income source. And that will be revealed in a moment when you look at the financials. So, Masanda, I have so much admiration for your work and everybody else that supported you. Vienne, Michael, Reverend Diane, many volunteers who answered Masanda's call to sit at the front desk while an event was happening. So anyway, it's just remarkable. Thank you. Lastly, I want to thank you all for being so involved and supportive of the church, because without each one of you, we can't make this place move forward in the way we all want it to. So thank you. Is this part of mine? Huh? Well, these, let's see. Yeah, the blue is, okay. The blue is in person, green's online. You can see, you might react to seeing the blue for 2025 drop a little bit, but that's because the online is stealing some attendance from our Sunday service. And you can see that our attendance is up a lot from before we moved into the building, and it's built ever since. Next slide. Okay, now I'm going to introduce Diana Suzuki, Board Treasurer, to present the financials.
Thank you, Greg. I'm going to start out with, I asked myself 2 questions this morning. One was, what should I wear? Which obviously I always pick green, because that was green in the picture up there. But there is a method to my madness. Green is lucky, and green is also the color of money. And since I'm a CPA and I always get to present financial statements at the end of a meeting when people are tired and hot and probably don't want to talk about financial statements, you got to start with something good. So I try to get lucky. So anyway, then I have a question for all of you. Raise your hand if you love reading financial statements. Whoa! And reconciling your bank accounts. And, oh, hands went down. And making budgets for your family. Yes. All right, you brave souls. And those who didn't, thank you, because you give me job security, because this is what I really like to do. All right, next slide, please. And we have other people who also like to help. This is our finance team. Thank you to Greg and Kathy and Frank, and of course, Reverend Diane. We get together once a month before the Board of Trustee meetings to look at the financials, talk about new changes in the tax laws for the state of Washington, stimulating topics that you would all enjoy if you were there. And we prepare the reports for the Board of Trustee meeting. So thanks to the finance team. Appreciate all of you. Next slide. Kind of an overview for the year. The capital fund has a $711,000. You'll see the sources of our funds in another slide, but that's so important, as Greg talked about, the reserves to maintain the facility. Over time, it's just like your own home. You have to replace the carpets, refinish the floors, the toilets break. I mean, all those things happen, and if you don't have some money set aside, it can be an unhappy experience. And so the reserve fund also, which is our rainy day fund, paid back, repaid some construction costs. It was taken out the other way, right? Other way, okay. You got what I said. Anyway, we had the legacy campaign this year, which Greg covered. And then, of course, you'll see in a few minutes when you look at the budgets and the actual results this year against the budgets that we did very well on income and kept the expenses almost spot on to the budget. So congratulations to Diane and her staff, because they managed the budget. They worked through it. Okay, next slide, please. So this is the source of funds that sustains the church. We have an operating fund, which is your day-to-day expenses. We have a reserve fund, which is your rainy day. The capital fund, we just talked about to maintain the building. And then the endowment fund, which is funds that are invested, and really the only thing that the church can take from that is the interest income it earns. But it also gets, as these funds are properly invested over time, that endowment grows and grows and then creates more interest income to help the church. So it's so important through the legacy giving as that grows. It's just an important part of the church. Okay, next slide. This is kind of a summary of some of the capital expenses that was paid this year. Primarily, most of it went for the roof repairs over the terrace, and then there was some spent on a set of drums, which was a good investment to make life easier for the musicians. Next slide. Okay, here's the important part, and then we'll try to walk through this. If you look at the actual income of $583,000 and the budget of $607, it shows us off about $25,000, but most of that was a fundraiser that we chose not to do. So, it was a decision that was made. It wasn't because we weren't successful. And if you look at the tithes were under budget a bit, but the rentals, as we talked about, was over budget, which a whole new area for this church to manage is rentals. I mean, when the church was built, it was clear to me that the previous boards put a lot of thought into how this facility could have rentals to help cover the cost of operating the church for all of us to enjoy the facility. So, I mean, that's phenomenal to actually exceed the rentals, $261,000. That's a lot. And looking at the numbers behind it, it's very profitable for the church. So it's been an awesome job. And then on the expense side, again, less than 1% difference between the budget and the actual expenses. Really, the administrative pretty much was some maintenance and repair expenses. It was a bunch of different small things, but other areas were under budget. So overall, to me, it was like a break even. It was a phenomenal job. Okay, next slide. Now, this is where it gets a bit tricky because the church still isn't self-sustaining from a cash flow standpoint. It has more expenses right now than it can generate in income. But that's with the transfer from the endowment, which is the interest income of $110,000, and then we cover it through the reserves if needed. And then, we're trying to get to a break even, but we're not there yet. So we really need to grow the tithing, the legacy, and the profitability and income from the rentals. Now, depreciation expense is such a big number, and that is what's going to be looked at in the reserve study. Depreciation is accounting. Of course, accounting something had to get in here that's a word people go, no, don't make me understand that. But what it is, it's just as the building wears out, it depreciates. Again, you have to know that the depreciable life for the building right now is 45 years, and for the equipment, we're using 6 years. So it says at the end of 6 years, you might need to replace some things in the kitchen. Again, the chairs in here, the stuff inside the building, but the facility itself, we have about almost $13 million to put this facility up. So at some point, you have to repair it. You have to keep it up. And so the reserve study will be very helpful to validate, is depreciation correct at $362,000 a year, or is it something different? So it's important to know because that's what you need to save for to keep the facility up.
Is that just a guess then at this point? Or?
No, it's actually taking the cost of the facility and dividing it by 45 years. And the cost of all equipment, which is like $600,000, divided by 6 years. So there is a method to it. But you do want to validate it by really what's the HVAC going to look like? And is it going to be 10 years out, 15 years out? It's all run by electronics. And as that ages, sometimes they have you have to upgrade your systems. So it's just important, and those of us who attended the old church, because I've gone here a long time too, it really got run down over time. And planning for that so that doesn't happen again is the way to go. So we're still working to close the gap. And then this chart just shows over time, the top line is expenses, and the dotted line, kind of gold, is the income. So we want to close that gap. And we have made really good progress, and we just need to be focused on that and continue to work that. New members, bring in new people. That's the way to bring the ties up. Next slide. So then we get into the financial objectives for 2026. The budget is managed by Diane and her staff, and they put together the budget that they provide to the Board of Trustees. And this is what it's going to take to maintain the church and all the wonderful events that Diane shared with you. And so, again, we want to keep moving to that sustainable budget, which is, a positive cash flow. And, you know, again, the stewardship campaign that provides the annual, like tithes and offerings that help the church plan its annual budget. And then the legacy, which helps build up that endowment to provide more interest income over the long term. And of course, to provide support and additional expenses for the rental team, because it's getting more and more work to put those events on and find people to support those events, which again are very profitable. We're very fortunate. So those are the important things to, again, I think we've talked about these things to sustain the church. Next slide. And I think Greg, you put this chart eventually together first time, but it's, anyway, it's been around for a while, but there's three legs that makes this church sustainable. The rentals and the programming, the stewardship and fundraising, and the legacy giving and the endowment. And those are the three areas that we need to focus on to help the church be profitable and be here for all of us. Next slide. So here's the budget for 2026 compared to the actuals for 2025. Tithes income up a bit. We're going to try to have a fundraiser for $10,000. Won't go into details, but you can see it's up substantially. And it's the rentals again, from $261,000 to $320,000. So it's a big part of the business and needs to be supported. And thanks to all of you who have helped with that as a volunteer and Diane and her staff. So again, growing the budget for income. Next slide. Expenses primarily is down because Karen retired. You'll see that the payroll dropped. But on other fronts, Diane needs help, so there'll be contractors, other part-time people to help sustain and keep up the work of the church. Administrative up is primarily event costs to support the events that are growing. So it's going to be more cost if you have more rentals. I think that's pretty straightforward. And the next slide, please. Again, trying to get the deficit down, to get it sustainable, so you can see we've improved. 2025 actuals was negative 326. 2026 is 229 with the transfer from the endowment. We're trending a big time in the right direction, but we have more work to do. And the depreciation doesn't go away because it is what it is. We just need to be cognizant and savor that to take care of the facility, and the equipment is needed. Next slide. And as Greg mentioned, the stewardship was awesome in 2025, and we want to grow it again in 2026. Next slide. Same goal, 250,000 in pledges and 100 people. Only 8 more. We can do that. Next slide. And if people have questions. Oh. Oh.
My question is about the growth of the endowment fund. So the page numbers would be helpful for next year, so I could call everyone out. Anyway, these are fund balances 2025. And at the beginning of the year, we had $3,013,000. And then we're up by $200,000 at the end of the year. Is that market growth, donations? Do you know where I'm at?
It would be market growth.
Market growth. And then we took 2% off that.
We started at what, 3.2? What was the number? A little over 3 million? This is what happened last year. We took, we had good investment returns of about 10%. But if you do the math on from beginning of the year to the end of the year, you don't get a 10% return. It's something lower, like a little less. That's because we transferred out $110,000 to the operating fund. Okay. Last year it was 4%, I think. Yeah, 4%. Yeah. Our financial policy allows between 3 and 4, 2 and 4. Yeah, at the discretion of the board, recommended to the minister. So after that distribution was taken, our net investment return was right around 8%, something like that. Okay, and that's what an endowment is designed to do. It's designed to grow over time, and so that you can continue making these distributions out to support operations. Now, what happens if in 5 years our endowment has grown to $4 million? What's 4% of $4 million? It's more money, right? So that's why George Edwards gets a lot of credit for creating the concept of the legacy campaign, so that we've got another mechanism to grow the endowment beyond just its internal growth. Okay.
Question from the chat is, they're asking for an explanation of our tithe expense.
Oh, the tithe expense is the amount of money that Seattle Unity tithes to other organizations. And I think that's probably common across the Unity world, that churches tithe, and that's our tithing expense.
Such as Silent Unity, Northwest Region, et cetera.
Yeah.
For the folks online.
I noticed that this is a question about the rental and the marketing. So the rental income for 2026 goes up by about 60,000, but the marketing expenses, which I think are probably tied mostly to the rental program, I'm not sure, go down. And so I'm just wondering if that's something, just what the thinking behind that is.
I'm thinking that, and Masanda and Diane can correct me, but we had a lot of upfront marketing costs, memberships, things like that into networking organizations that only have to be funded once or irregularly, okay, on intervals. Yeah, and we're also becoming smarter marketers. Hey, can I mention one more thing related to your question about the the endowment fund? I'm speaking from memory, but last year, our endowment fund received about $85,000 to $90,000 in dividends and interest income. That almost covers what we withdrew. It'll be the same situation again this year. The numbers will be a little higher. So the depletion of principal is very small. So there's going to be a continuing amount of money that'll grow over time. The compounding effect.
I have a question. So back with the endowment fund, other than interest grown on the endowment fund, is the endowment fund used for anything beyond just using the interest, or is the purpose of it strictly to grow interest and harvest?
It's maintained over 2 years.
We received a bequest. The original bequest was to give money to Seattle Unity forever. The investment term is in perpetuity. So the endowment fund was created with that goal in mind, so that we could remain in alignment with Jack McCarthy's original bequest to the church. So we have 65% of the money invested in the stock market. Remember, this is a forever fund, so we don't worry too much about month-to-month fluctuation, because generally the trend in the stock market is from the lower left to the upper right. okay? And we don't take money out that depletes it. So for as long as all of us are around, you'll see that endowment number continue to creep up. Yes, that's a good term. Well, just Jack McDonald, what did I say? Jack McDonald, yeah.
Any other questions?
And just to add to that, the monies are managed by Morgan Stanley, but we are so lucky because this is Greg's area of expertise, and so that's why we have him, to explain it to you, because that's what he did for a living for many years. 45 years. But who's counting?
I just feel like at a previous meeting, there was some lingering, ongoing issue with the original contractors that had quit and been replaced and quit and been replaced, and something with the money, and maybe we were suing, and I don't know whatever happened to that. And we did mention something with the roof, so I'm just wondering, was that all that resolved? Are we all done with the contractors?
Oh, with the construction. Oh.
Belinda.
Well, there are still two issues that are outstanding, and believe me, we're working on them. But we're working with government agencies on a solution, and we've got a lawyer as an intermediary, okay? So, the first issue is the ADA ramp that's built across, or the ramp built, attempted to build to ADA specifications across the street, okay? And that continues on. And then the other one is property tax matter with the State Department of Revenue, which we've gotten forgiveness for a big portion of it, and there's still a little amount. And the attorney and the Department of Revenue just can't seem to, come to a conclusion on that. I'm going to tell you a quick funny story, can I, about this ADA ramp. We were asking Diane to clear her desk, clear out her inbox of things that we don't want her dealing anymore with as head minister. And so I took over this tax matter and this ADA ramp. And I haven't brought either of them to a conclusion. But my first phone call to the engineer at City Hall, whose name is also Diane, I said, look, you've already given us a permit to tear out the one that's there now, the third one that we've put in, replace it with something new, and you've given us a waiver because of some unique characteristics on that site. We can't meet the code. It's impossible unless you dig up the entire street and, from scratch, which isn't going to happen. So I said, knowing that we can't tear this out again and put in something new that'll meet city code, why don't we just take that one and call it good enough? And that was a puzzling question that's still out there. And so I made another contact about 3 weeks ago, and it got kind of deflected over to the city's ADA department and an inspector. So, we're working on it. It's frustrating, but that's all that lingers.
Any other questions?
Good, thank you very much. Greg?
I thought I was done. If there are no further questions on the budget for 2026, I would like to entertain a motion to approve this operations budget. Dirk Larimer. I second. Second by Marcia Rattan. Now we ask for a vote of the 2026 operations budget. Please raise the green card. Do we want an actual count on this? Okay. Looks like almost unanimous. Any who oppose the budget? There are none. Any abstentions? There are none. 8 of 8? Okay. So unanimous approval. Now, the last item, one of the last items on our agenda is to select a nominating committee and members who will let's see, let me read this. The committee shall consist of the members, 3 active members, and an alternate selected in the annual in the following manner. At the annual membership meeting, the membership shall select 1 member of its active members and an alternate. That alternate will be a non-voting committee member who participates in all communications and meetings. But those individuals will serve on the nominating committee for next year's election. So I'm looking for someone willing to step forward to serve as a member of the nominating committee and an alternate for next year. 1 member? Okay. Okay. And then do we have any volunteers for the alternate? Oh, we have to vote, okay. So. So all in favor of Glenda Sachs serving on the nominating? Then a minute for online. You can put yours down.
Are you still looking for your alternate?
As soon as this vote is complete. 9. Glenda, you have many friends. It looks unanimous. Belinda, I'm sorry, Belinda, yeah. Now, is there anyone who is willing to serve as the alternate for that committee next year? Mitch Hunter? All in favor of Mitch Hunter serving as the alternate? You may lower your cards. I think he's got a lot of friends. So congratulations to Belinda Sachs and Mitch Hunter, who will be on the alternate the nominating committee for next year. Now, is there any new business that should be brought before the group? Sure.
I've been in the parking lot early sometimes, and it seems really full. So I'm just wondering, the parking garage, if there's a lot of cars there that are there overnight, and maybe somebody could just check it at night, and I don't know if the cars then get ticketed or what, but this has been going on for a while. I didn't say anything a while ago, but I tried to park there today, and because there's no place to turn around, it just creates a real problem in the garage when people go in there and there's no parking place and they're trying to go out, and it's actually quite a while before the service starts. So it's just maybe somebody could check it at night and see how full it is.
So noted. I think we've noticed that before, and it's part of the ongoing management of that parking space. And there is some use, I'm guessing, from apartment residents or guests that's hard to control. But that's a known problem, and we're not sure. Yeah, the turnaround space is around the corner, but it's tight. Yeah. Yeah, we know it. So it's a good reason to buy a Volkswagen. There being no new business, I'm going to ask Reverend Diane for a closing prayer prior to our adjournment.
All right, so thank you all for sticking with it and staying here and your engagement. And so again, we just take a moment to give thanks for this community, the gift of this community. We give thanks for all those that have served on the board, all those that serve as volunteers, all those stepping into board service. And so just take a moment and send your blessings out into this space, whether you join us in person or online. Just bringing to mind the gifts that this spiritual community provides to you. And we say thank you and amen. Blessing. Yes, please, the table, if you want to put the cards on the table, we reuse those each year.
The board chair declares this meeting adjourned as of 1:11 p.m.